Although trading is closed on May 20th, 2020, we'll go over our calls. We had a wall into the close. We said often it would gap up, which it did. Looked for the commonest thing to be a gap and a prompt move outside the day's range. We got that. Typically, this hole in the wall gap fills usually by early Friday, by Friday's open. It'll fill it sometime, but if it fills in its most common time frame, we'll start down tomorrow, undercut the low of the wall and find support there. But if we move up instead, I would forget the time frame. Just remember that should close at some time. This was the pattern with the early low, and tomorrow's pattern has the early high. Here's what we said. Most common gap and prompt move outside the day's range. During the day, MEJT gave a sell signal and a buy signal again. These are targets, they're not entries. It said we'd see lower prices, which have been satisfied, and it said we'd see higher prices, and that's been satisfied too. These initial forays typically aren't enough to satisfy the signals, but that one did, and this one certainly did. I don't trust DeMarc's indicators any longer. They really failed too many times, but for those who'd like to follow them, we have bar 13 of a sequential sell signal. There might be a little more credence to this than some others, because here's the top of the Bollinger Band, and here's your 200-day moving average. So all these things are indicative of this being the area of a top, but not necessarily the exact top. We'll just say there's resistance here and not attach too much more importance to it at this time. We show the long-term chart every so often. You connect the bottom from 2 and 4. Parallel line connects the top from 1 and 3. This line's also parallel. Was hoping it would hold. It didn't. Next resistance from the trend line is just over 3,000. Doesn't mean we have to hit it. Doesn't mean it has to hold. But let's just say there is strong resistance from the trend line just over 3,000. We entertained the idea of an alternate count if we were going to drop here. I don't think it's valid any longer because I can't count this as a three-wave structure. I think this is a 5. You could kid yourself and call this AB with C information. I think when you have to fudge like that, I think it's easier just to assume the count's wrong. So we'll forget about the alternate count, go back to the original one. The most plausible one to me now, not the only valid one, is that we're in wave blue B, and this is A, and that's B, and we're making C a B. And how high that goes, we haven't decided yet, but we think it'll go at least to 3,000. Doesn't mean that we go there tomorrow, though. So, tomorrow's pattern has the early high. Could get down first, I should say. We'll do a quick patch. I won't tell if you won't. Usually the day's negative with a final hour low. There's really strength that need not happen. Shorter term, short. There are a number of negative features. We gapped up, hit a higher high, and closed under all the day's high. We're near resistance from the moving average or long-term trend line. And also we have a hole in the wall, a gap. Doesn't have to fill within a day or so, but usually it does. If we overtake today's high, that pattern's killed. So the first prediction is if we don't take out today's high promptly, we should drop, and the target is to undercut yesterday's low and find support there. That's the shorter term. Longer term, the odds have increased. The rally will continue at least into the 3,000 area, perhaps higher. It's difficult for me to find a count here which justifies a reversal being imminent. You can't always agree on what the count is, but I think it's helpful to agree on what the count isn't. And I can't find a count that says we're going to reverse promptly. I think most likely if we don't take this out is that we'll go under this low and then recover and go to over 3,000. And that's a target. That's not a stop and reverse. So tomorrow has the early high. It's important to see if this falls early. And that's today's call.